BROWBEAT Studio. Dallas Advanced Microblading Experts. 665 watts. Lyndon B. Johnson Fwy. Suite 216. Irving, Texas 75063. Phone 214-432-3077. https://www.browbeat.studio.com/is-microblading-here's-new-need-to-know/is microblading a tattoo? Is microblading a tattoo? Here's what you need to know. Is microblading a tattoo? Microblading is a form of tattooing. The difference between a body pigment tattoo and microblading is the depths of the ink goes under the skin. The eyebrows play a significant role in the aesthetics of the face. The shape, fullness, and symmetry of the brows all work together to highlight the eyes and frame the upper face. If you have thin or patchy eyebrows, there is a non-invasive treatment that can instantly improve the eyebrow area: microblading. Microblading is a popular eyebrow enhancement technique that improves the shape, definition, and thickness of the brows. The microblading technique uses a specialized handheld tool with a unique blade to deposit dye into the second dermal layer of the skin, creating very fine strokes that mimic the appearance of natural eyebrow hair. Is microblading a tattoo, you may ask? Read more to find out. Is microblading a tattoo? Definition: any ink that will go under the skin is mostly called a tattoo. Microblading sits in the epidermis layers. This is the reason why the hair strokes look so crisp and clear and hair-like. These epidermis layers are over time going to shed. It is why microblading over time will fade off. The microblading industry claims that all microblading will just fade off. There are certain drawbacks to the statements. Because artist pressure is going to navigate how deep that pigment will go. Is microblading a tattoo? Yes, but also no. The 4 key differences between microblading and eyebrow tattoos: natural-looking outcome. Microblading creates a more natural result compared to eyebrow tattooing, which results in brows that appear drawn on and flat. It is because the microblading technique creates individual hair-like strokes that are identical to the hair growth pattern of the surrounding eyebrow hair. A good microblading technician can make treated areas look like a more dense version of the natural brow hair. Pigment vs. ink. Is microblading a tattoo? Tattoo ink is used for eyebrow tattooing, while microblading uses a specialized pigment. Ink differs greatly from pigment in the way it fades over time. As tattoo ink fades, it often develops a blue-green colored tint, especially around the edges of the tattoo. It can leave people with some oddly colored eyebrows that often look like Sharpie. In contrast, microblading pigment is specifically devising to fade into a lighter version of the color used, so the patient retains a natural appearance. Semi-permanent vs. permanent. Is microblading a tattoo? Well, eyebrow tattoos are permanent. Once the tattoo sinks onto the skin, it is there for life, although undesirable fading of the ink, as mentioned above, is possible. It is very different from microblading, where the results typically last about 6 months to a year. You can do simple touch-up treatments annually if the microblading patient wishes to maintain their enhanced brow. The semi-permanent nature of microblading allows patients the ability to change the appearance of their brow as trends change. Pain. Getting a tattoo can be relatively painful, especially if they are in a sensitive area like the face. Numbing the brow area with lidocaine before treatment helps the microblading technique to involve much less discomfort. Most patients describe the feeling of microblading to be similar to tweezing. How to get the best microblading treatment? It is imperative to find a microblading artist with a great deal of experience. The reason for this is because an inexperienced artist has not honed the skill of providing the right pressure. Too much pressure and too much density can cause the microbladed out eyebrows to look just like a tattoo. Many artists place districts too close together, and the strokes can merge in healing. It is going to create a very tattoo-like the outcome. Is microblading a tattoo? Most people choose microblading to avoid this very fact. So having some knowledge of the difference between microblading and tattooing is important, so you can recognize how to choose the correct artist for your microblading and treatment. People want fully understanding the magnitude of bad microblading artist. Assisted it to be cheap and too quick, likely inexperienced. Inexperience could create an outcome that is similar to a tattoo because of the pressure and consistency of strokes. Is microblading a tattoo? Is Microblading A Tattoo the best microblading studio in Texas? In the state of Texas, microblading falls under the laws of tattooing, just like if you went to your local tattoo studio. So the laws of the state of Texas agree that microblading is still considered a tattoo, semi-permanent, but still a tattoo. So that answers your question, is microblading a tattoo? BROWBEAT Studio is Dallas's most advanced microblading experts. Creating the eyebrows that are perfect for you is a work of art. And as masters of that art, BROWBEAT Studio will help you shape your dream eyebrows. Using the cutting-edge eye embroidery or microblading technique, our artists will craft your dream into reality. If you desire fuller eyebrows or want superior definition, you can trust BROWBEAT in getting the job done, taking care of newly microbladed brows. Now that you have the answer to is microblading a tattoo, remember that when you get the final eyebrows from microblading, you will get the need to show them off. However, you need to be careful enough not to use any makeup or skincare products. They can cause scratching, peeling, or picking of the surface area. Also, you should not expose the area to direct sunlight at least for 10 days. Only use wipes to touch them. Avoid brow area while you wash your face. Sleep on your back if possible. Put small band-aids on the ends if you are a side sleeper. Keep them as dry as possible. Do not get them wet. Don't touch your brows for 24 hours. Do not sweat or work out. Don't put ointment, sunscreens, lotions, or makeup on them. Do not stay in direct sunlight. Don't go tanning. Do not pick, itch, or rub your brows. Don't use retinoids or benzoyl peroxide. Do not go to a sauna. Don't take any blood thinners. Do not take any anti-inflammatory medicines like Advil, Aleve, Motrin, aspirin, or Excedrin. Don't take any oil supplements like fish oil, vitamin E oil, or primrose oil. Do not take any magnesium. Don't consume any alcohol, caffeine, or nicotine as it will interrupt the healing process. Do not take any over-the-counter herbs without consulting with your microblading artist. Do not use any acidic lotions or topicals. They are found in most makeup and skincare products. Any topical products that contain mineral oils, retinol, AHA, glycolic acid, and salicylic acid should be avoided. I hope you find this article helpful. As to your question, is microblading a tattoo? Follow us on social media to see more of our before and after photos. Want to get the most superior microblading treatment in the DFW area? Call BROWBEAT today on 214 432 3077 to make your microblading appointment for is microblading a tattoo. Book now. BROWBEAT Studio, Dallas Advanced Microblading Experts, 665 watts. Lyndon B. Johnson FY, Suite 216, Irving, Texas 75063. Phone 214-432-3077. More like this. How long does microblading last? Microblading eyebrows before and after. Grapevine Microblading. Latest microblading and eyebrow threading tips. Dallas TX. Microblading do's and don'ts before and after care. 7 things you should know before microblading your eyebrows. Things to consider before you get microblading. Dallas Microblading, the art of 3D.